Welcome to another video when we pit someone or something that has extraordinary strength and abilities against a regular Joe, such as yourself. Today we're talking about Thanos, one of the most formidable bad boys in the Marvel Universe. He first showed his ugly face in the comic The Invincible Iron Man number 55 and has since been a fairly regular fixture. You might also have seen him in a number of Marvel movies, and he'll appear in the upcoming Avengers Endgame. The creator of this villain, Jim Starlin, quite amusingly once said he got the idea while studying psychology and anger management. Yep, Thanos sure has a problem controlling his rage. But now let's have a look at his backstory before we get into the actual fight. Indeed, if you look at Marvel's Cinematic Universe fan site, you'll see that he would have been interesting work for any psychologist. He's described as being powerful, extremist, genocidal, psychopathic, violent, and tyrannical. Also known as the Dark Lord, Mad Titan, or even the most powerful being in the universe. He's understandably a bit of a handful. He was born on Titan, one of many of Saturn's moons. Just so you know, according to NASA, Saturn has 62 confirmed moons, but a few more could be added to that list soon. Titan is special as it has its own atmosphere. Thanos is the son of Eternals, A'ars, and Suisan, and he has a brother called Eros. He carries something called the Deviance gene, and this somewhat helped shape his appearance. After his birth, his mother was so taken aback by his appearance that she tried to kill him. The father prevented this from happening, but perhaps some of Thanos' darker aspects can be explained by how he was treated and how he looked. He was friendly enough during his early days in school, but kept to himself and mainly just hung out with his brother and his pets. But then, as he got older, he became fascinated with death and some aspects of nihilism, a philosophical belief that life has no inherent value, purpose, or higher meaning. But then he finds meaning later in life when he becomes obsessed with Mistress Death, the personification of death itself. Chasing after her is his raison d'etre, and there is nothing he wouldn't do for her. We might also add that Thanos was not always portrayed as an out-and-out villain. You see, when he was living on Titan, there were way too many people and just not enough resources. Thanos had the idea just to kill half the people and the problem would be solved. That didn't go down well with his people, of course. He didn't perform the Great Call, and then he was proved right. Titan was overrun and devastated, and the Titan people almost became extinct. Over his long history, the story has changed many times, but you can read in the comics how Mistress Death got Thanos to wipe out half the universe. She said there were too many living people and not enough dead people, and asked him to get the job done. Thanos believed this to be true, having seen what happened on his own planet. He thought sending off half the universe to an early grave would be an act of love in some ways. We should add that Mistress Death was also around from time to time to bring him back from what seemed like certain death. Thanos wants to exterminate half the universe because he thinks he's doing a good thing. That's based on his belief that there are not enough resources to go around. The simple solution is to just get rid of many beings. He commands armies and he has many followers. He seeks to find the Infinity Stones so he can succeed in his plan. If you don't already know, the stones are 6 elemental crystals that hold an important aspect of the universe. These stones were the creation of the cosmic entities, and they each hold immense power. So for many years, Thanos goes looking for these stones, and that gets him into a lot of trouble, while often making alliances on the way. He becomes a very feared tyrant because if he came to your planet, he might see to it that he left with half the population dead. It would be an understatement to say Thanos is a hard man to keep down. He comes up against the best there are, including head-to-head with Thor, the Avengers, the Masters of the Mystic Arts, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and the nation of Wakanda. He eventually wins in his last big fight, and with a snap of his fingers, the universe is depopulated. He has no misgivings, sounding at times like German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche once said, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." Thanos once uttered the dictum, "Flesh is weak. Weakness must be cast aside for the sake of power." For Thanos, power and sometimes ruthlessness had to be embraced for the greater good. Destruction was as necessary as creation. He even had his adopted daughters, Nebula and Gamora, fight, and when Nebula lost, he removed part of her body because he said this would make her stronger. So did this crazy, tough-loving tyrant ever lose a fight? Well, as some of you might know, he once came up against the forces of Wakanda, who were backed up by some of the members of the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he makes fairly easy work of them. This ends with the Mad Tyrant putting the 6th and last stone in the gauntlet and harnessing the power of the universe, thus making him omnipotent. As we said, the end product is Thanos achieving what he always wanted to do: get rid of half the universe. He saw this as imperative to saving the other half, but we might ask if there was an alternative solution. Thanos didn't seem to think so, kind of hailing himself as an unsung hero, once saying, "The hardest choices require the strongest wills." That's basically saying, it's a dirty job, but someone has to do it. Thanos incurred an injury, but he seemed happy enough after killing half of all beings. What we usually see in such stories is the bad guy losing, but Thanos proved he had almost unstoppable power. But if you go back through all the comics, Thanos had his behind handed to him on many occasions. In 2005, you might have seen him losing a fight to Squirrel Girl, while Drax the Destroyer once killed him by ripping out his heart. Adam Warlock once turned him into stone, and that held him back for a while. But as we said, when you have Mistress Death in your corner, there are often ways of getting resurrected. He's also been killed as a clone and even as a zombie Thanos, and on many other occasions when his anger and nihilism got the better of him. What is so often his downfall is his devotion to Mistress Death, and she seems at times to enjoy playing with his sometimes misguided mind and fickle heart. Thanos might be the strongest of them all, but he has an Achilles heel: his heart and ego. When people were asked how Thanos might be defeated in upcoming movies, seeing as he laid so many people to waste in the last one, a few folks had some ideas. At this point, we have an already almost unbeatable villain who now has been made even stronger with cosmic cubes and infinity stones. He's been made to look like he can't lose. But as we know, everyone loses sometimes. The closest we saw him to being badly hurt in the movies was when Thor hit him in the chest with his Stormbreaker. We at least know that he has a weakness, and perhaps, as some pundits have said, someone will rustle up some kind of weapon in the upcoming movie, and that weapon will be the end of Thanos. After all, everything so far has been thrown at Thanos and nothing worked. Perhaps it will take some magic from the tool makers, and who knows what will be created. We looked at what people were saying on forums about how to beat Thanos, and some of the answers were amusing. One person said the Avengers will have to appeal to Thanos' rather large ego, taunting him to fight them without using all those powerful stones. Perhaps Thanos might just do it to prove he can win, but we doubt this will happen. There's also the fact that the Infinity Gauntlet might not always wield the power that was required to wipe out half the universe. Without its full power and the fact that he was hurt, this might mean he could be defeated. As many others have said, why didn't Thor just aim for the head and not the chest? Others are not so positive, with one person writing, "The Avengers essentially cannot beat Thanos with the gauntlet. He kills half the universe, regardless of power, with a mere thought. He could literally end reality with the gauntlet. And with that in mind, how could you beat Thanos?" Well, as you don't have superpowers and you are up against a person that can destroy just about everything in the universe, this is not going to be an easy fight. In fact, let's just forget about having a traditional fight and think about heart, mind, ego, and hubris. So let's have a look at the name Thanos and his brother Eros. If you know your Greek mythology, you'll know that there were two characters with a similar name and the same name. The first was Thanatos, the personification of death. The second was Eros, the god of love and desire. The Marvel Comics just based their characters' names on ancient Greek characters. We might also note that psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud said that people are controlled by both a death drive, Thanatos, a drive toward ultimate destruction, but also a drive to create, which was based on Eros. Okay, so if we're sticking with Greek myths, we might acknowledge that Thanos is lacking in the Eros department. He's been devoted to Mistress Death, but that's almost like looking in a mirror. Perhaps your only chance of defeating Thanos is to teach him to love, to show him love. It's a course of action that hasn't been taken in the movies. But as a mere human, one of your only chances of not losing against this thing is by changing his very reason for living. You must transform the nihilist through your wise words and make him become an idealist, a believer in the higher power of love. That might, of course, just get you squished into a ball and thrown off the edge of a cliff. There have been some angry people on the planet that seemed had no spots to change. The hate and fury is in the blood, in the very marrow of the bones. Okay, so what's next? In that case, as a mere human, you must try and trick Thanos. We can look at Greek mythology again and think about the word hubris. When we talk about hubris now, we mean arrogance, overconfidence, too much pride, a boastful ego, which more often than not ends with a downfall. This could be good news for you, and let's not forget that in mythologies, wily humans have beaten giants in the past. Now, the one thing you have going for you in your fight fight with Thanos is the fact that his arrogance would be so high after beating everyone and fulfilling his objectives that you could not possibly be a threat to him. Now, you must appeal to his ego, and it's likely he'll let you close because, as we said, you could not possibly hurt him in his eyes. You become his friend and tell him you're devoted to him. This is a great advantage, since you might be able to get so close you could get your hands on the Infinity Gauntlet. Okay, so that might vaporize you, but it might not. Remember that Doctor Strange, a human, has touched one of the Great Stones. Get your hands on this, and you might have the power of the universe. You were like a Trojan horse. Your feebleness made Thanos put his guard down, and because you stroked his ego, he took a liking to you. Then, wham! You end his life just as he ended millions of others. How would you defeat the great Thanos? If you thought this video was fun, check out our You Versus series. Go ahead, I'll wait. Click the thumbnail on the screen.